Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset Podcast, brought to you by the Opportunities for Youth in Africa, or OYA program. OYA is a joint initiative of the UN Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, featuring interviews with inspiring young entrepreneurs from across the African continent. This podcast is about seizing opportunities, overcoming and learning from setbacks, and succeeding in a variety of settings to fulfill your business ambitions. And now, over to our host.
Hello, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset, a podcast about entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs wanting to build success. I'm your host, Fifi Peters. This is the final episode of the chapter on how to turn an idea into a business. And my guest today is in the business of doing exactly that. He has trained thousands of young people in Ghana and also has helped many businesses formalize themselves in that region. I am talking about a serial entrepreneur and business strategist stroke consultant stroke Mr. John Armah now joins the podcast. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Ms. Peters. An honor to be here.
Put the formalities. It's John and Fifi, right?
Fifi is fine. Okay, acknowledge.
Perfect. John, last I spoke to you, you were in the US. What you doing there?
That's a very good question. We started our business in Ghana, helping entrepreneurs back home and DFIs and so on and so forth. Then we realized there was another arm to our market where there were companies in Ghana that wanted to enter into this market. And so we thought, let's understand this market well. So we're able to assist one of our biggest bakeries in Ghana launch in America as a way to enter the new market. So that's what we're doing, helping Ghanaian brands launch here and helping those indigenous brands that are here to expand. There's a strategy to capture the Ghanaian and African American markets here. And then also I'm here for, I have a family here, so I come and go as a way.
That's incredible, though. I mean, taking Africa to the world and taking Africa to the world's biggest market. How is that process going?
I never thought that I would have a business that would transcend not only Africa, but then move into other markets. But then I realized the next frontier is about, of course, conquering the sub-region, but also there are dominant brands that want to explore. And so we want to be the engine for them. Business friendliness, I think if you look at the ease of doing business, it varies a lot in countries that you visit, but it's been really good so far for the brands that we work with, and they're thriving and we like it that way.
Because traditionally, America is a very difficult market to crack, I think, for anyone, anywhere in the world. And I'm just interested in the reception that some of the businesses have received so far. You mentioned a bakery. I mean, just tell us about that.
Yeah, indeed, it's a very tough market to crack. But if you look at the FDI inflow into Africa, if you look at the dominant brands with technology that we need, if you look at the knowledge transfer and in terms of technology transfer that we need to marry both worlds. The new frontier for many businesses is also Africa, because that's where the biggest potential is. So if you want to play small, you will remain playing small. But if you want to grow bigger, you will explore markets such as this in terms of finding which people can be key partners for our businesses back home, which people can have the right technology to be able to help our indigenous companies grow. And that's what we're seeing. Now, A1 Bread is one of Ghana's biggest brands in Ghana. It's one of the biggest bakeries in Ghana. And there was a US program that looked at how best to bring these same brands to this part of the market. It's always a challenge as to how do we break into this market, and it's always easier for those here to break into our market. So our task was examine the barriers to trade, examine the challenge in terms of understanding consumer mindset, then figure out, okay, these same brands that they like back home, how do you get it to their doorstep? It takes time to study the market to win in this market.
This is so incredible because, I mean, when I think of I think about, bread and all the patisseries and muffins and all the delights that perhaps, one shouldn't consume too much of if you're trying to watch the weight. But a bakery for me in Africa is not really that much different to a bakery in France if you just add a baguette, or perhaps not very much different to a bakery in the US if you just add a bagel as a differentiating factor. So the question or the point that I'm trying to make is that you are backing a business trying to turn a simple, ordinary idea and making it global. So that is quite the job that you've got there. And it also speaks to the fact that a business need not have a complicated idea to be successful. About that.
That's a very good point. This company is quite different in a lot of ways. They have a secret recipe. Their bread is different from what you see on the market. And so they have a superior product that's relevant. And that's why they are dominant in our market. I'll give you two more examples. We just recently signed an agreement between a company in Ghana called Magdan. It's one of the biggest companies in Ghana in shipping and so on and so forth. And we brokered a deal between them and a company in Tennessee here in the US. And this Tennessee company has three subsidiaries. I mentioned that to you. Number one is what you call Durang, and Durang is a separate company on its own. But Durang has one of the world's foremost surveillance platforms in the world. They use AI to interpret. It's used for traffic system. They can do crowd control. So we signed that deal between Durang and Magdan's subsidiary called UpWest as well. Now, we also brokered a deal between a company called AimXL. AimXL is an education platform for youth for kindergarten students or kids or children who want to learn about alphabets, who want to improve numeracy and literacy skills. And that's a big challenge back home in Ghana. We brokered a deal between AimXL and the local company to ensure that they have tabs. You can also use your phone and download a simple smartphone and the smart app. And then they have flashcards. And what it does is that it makes it interactive. So your kid can play with an app or move it around, can play with a car and understand the dynamics around it. And that's the beauty of this collaboration. Now, to jump up from where you left off, there will always be entrepreneurs that are driven by need. And there will be those entrepreneurs that really desire to want to break new barriers. Now, both have to answer a very critical question. Do I pursue comfort, or do I pursue passion-related enterprises? Or do I pursue that which, again, like I was saying, you desire to be? This is what I mean by that. Comfort is where this person starts and is looking at, okay, so do I look for a job and be okay? Do I find a side job out of this? Do I stay in my current job and figure out, okay, how best can I save to explore that passion of mine? There's another person who's saying that, look, I think I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm good at that, and I want to try all of this as well. And there's that person who sits down and is a combination of all of it and says, I've studied this market. I know what my consumer wants. I know what the unique selling proposition is for me. I know my customer profile. I know how much they're willing to spend on a unique product. They've done their feasibility studies. They've put together some business plan. They've examined the license regime. They've looked at their revenue forecast and models. They can tell you that they've been at it for a while, gathering data on retention rates and all of that within that market, growth rates. And they've
done their homework.
It's definitely a homework. Out of all of these three lie a fundamental common core, which is to solve a growing need in that environment. But that need must be specific to certain things. What is the value chain of that market like? What is the growth rate of that market? How will this market go? Is my business model viable? Where do these customers exist? What will be sustainability of my business like? Have I built my capacity as an entrepreneur to be able to understand what I'm entering into? What are the performance management metrics I've put in place to understand what growth will mean for me? What will marketing look like? Am I a B2B business? Am I a B2C business? Am I a B2G business? Okay, fundamentally, what does my team structure look like? What does my organogram look like today? What will it look like tomorrow? What does governance mean to me as a business?
Questions. So many questions.
Exactly. So certain questions that may also arise include, as an organization, what does my funding route look like? Am I typically, what is the descriptive value of what I'm offering? Today, sectors are defined by very common names. If it's education, there's edtech. There are sectors that are agnostic as well, where you develop a product that works in multiple sectors. For a guy who develops an accounting platform, can do inventory, can do all of this, can work for manufacturing, and so on. So an understanding of that value chain, understanding of systems, understanding your customer, understanding the market, understanding you as an entrepreneur helps you define which sector you want to go to, what kind of entrepreneur you want to be, and where in the market you want to play.
Sure, John, you and I got so serious so quickly into the conversation. So I'm
asked for it. You asked for it.
All right,
and then we scaled it up.
Okay, so I'm going to ask us to dial it back a little bit then. You mentioned family. I did see a ring on your finger. So is this a wife and kids?
I just got married.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. and funny enough, I met my wife at an event where I was actually doing a business development session in 2016. And, at the time she was dating. When you are dating, you are not my friend, really. You can't be talking to. So I told her to stay away because I was in love with her. But I stayed away for about a year, 2, 3 years. Here we are today.
Interesting. So, I mean, I think it kind of describes your character in the sense that when you've put your mind to something, you will go and do it, and you'll be patient throughout the process. Yeah. But marriage, you got lucky, my friend. But we'll leave it there. But I want to bring you back to the soil. I mean, you are a son of the soil. You are the son of Africa, even though you're in the US right now. And talk to us about your experience as a child in Africa, in Ghana. What was it like growing up there?
That's a very good point. To just pick up from the marriage part and link it to my growing up, I think as an entrepreneur, values define your growth, especially in Africa. In a system where if you're not careful, you can be marred by all of the things that are wrong, which I don't want to go into. So having a value system is key. Being persistent in challenge. Every entrepreneur in Ghana and part of the world has some story on adversity. We all do. But it's in that adversity that we find strength that defines our characters to whether or not this journey of entrepreneurship is for us. Because it's never an easy road. It's like you trying to unravel a maze that you've never seen, never saw, and can't find who has even solved it before, because not everyone in Africa's story is the same or similar. So there are people who are entrepreneurs out of a political system. There are people who we've not built generational kind of businesses in Africa for you to say, there's a template for me to follow. But there are few good ones that we can follow. For me, my mom runs an orphanage where she takes care of street kids, orphans, and she actually has a school for them as well, where they don't pay fees. I learned that part of giving back and looking for ways to help from my mom, right? My dad, on the contrary, is the one who is the business guy looking for, okay, what is trending, what is moving, what is there a market for, what are the systems, what is the knowledge behind it. And so I learned that out of it. I grew up in a place called Ghanian. And for me, entrepreneurship was a way out of, was an escape for me. It was a way to figure out all the things I'm good at, a way to give back, to try and get my family also in shape, to reach out to my brothers and help my family, to help myself. And so for me, it was an escape that what is it that I'm going to do? And so I remember I went to a school that didn't even have a student representative council. We set it up. I did my first school magazine. They didn't have a school magazine. I set it up humbly with the team. Before I left school, I was employed by the school didn't want me to leave. I left, and then I got another job as a library assistant at one of Ghana's foremost schools called the Ghana International School. I think I read almost every book as a library assistant, because for me, coming from that underprivileged background, I needed to know. And I saw kids who were applying to Oxford, Harvard, and I've never heard these schools. I was like, what's going on here?
John, if you were reading all the books, who was doing the assisting? That means you weren't doing your job.
Look, I got in very early. I got in very, very, very early. I was actually almost the first person to always get to the school, because this is where there's a great factor to these things. Because I don't know what happened, but there was a sudden rush to get out of where I was as a young person, because there were no opportunities for me in that part. I recall After Ghana International School, I did marketing with a hotel called Wangara Hotel. And before that, sometimes I forget these things. Then I went on to Concept One. I did something with Concept One. I got introduced to radio. I started radio before I turned 18 on one of Ghana's foremost radio stations. I remember winning a scholarship to Malaysia, and I organized my first conference, Ghana Youth Conference, out of the region to test my organizational skills. I remember on radio getting a letter. I used to do something on Africa from Ministry of Foreign Affairs to propose an idea on how we can, shape youth leadership in Africa. So I humbly pioneered the Model African Union Summit at Ghana's biggest conference center at the time to do this event. I remember then writing to the World Bank to say, can we do forums to explore where are the jobs in Ghana and how do we get young people the jobs? So we set up the Ghana Youth Employment Forum. Out of that, we were meeting key stakeholders in policy, government, and ministers of state, and we proposed an idea to government on how to help entrepreneurs. So far back in 2012, it was put in the budget of Ghana and humbly made me the youngest contributor to Ghana's budget. That idea has evolved today to what we now call Ghana's major fund for entrepreneurs, NEID, which will also be assisted as well. I remember serving on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Committee. As a young guy, you don't often get a chance to serve on boards and committees in Ghana at that age, but because of the idea that we had.
How old were you?
This is between 16, 17. That's when I left school. 18 when I started radio. After about 22 is where I'm talking about now. And now, from there, I remember, now the stories, I have to fill it back again. So I did radio for a while, went on to TV. I was on Ghana's national broadcaster as a TV presenter, presenting on youth affairs. I did that for a while. I did radio for about 6 years thereafter. Then we did a Ghana Youth Agriculture Forum with the Ministry of Agriculture to help young people understand the value chain in agribusiness. Where are the seeds? Where's the funding for it? Where do you get equipment? And I've seen lots of people come out of that program. And then I realized.
Let's stop there. Let's stop there. Let me give you a moment to pause because you've done a lot of.
Very good.
You've done a lot of things, but you mentioned a very good point in terms of agriculture and the opportunities for young people there. And I know that the group that you are part of right now has a division that looks specifically at agriculture, farm management, and agribusiness advisory. And just given all the talk around the agri space right now, what's your take on where the opportunities for young people and employment in the sector?
You see, there are still barriers to agriculture. I remember starting a business, specifically in agribusiness, where I was bagging maize, I was doing gari, something we call gari, flakes. I was doing cassava, and I was doing pepper as well, and packaging them and selling. I made more money packaging and selling than actually farming directly on the field. And it got me thinking as to the lifestyles of these farm people that we have, which are the laborers around, which are youth who are looking for jobs, who don't want to get dirty. And that is serious. So if you want to enter into agribusiness as a passive person, where you just want to sit down and you have a side job and it's not a full-time job, and you don't put in systems in place, it can be very troubling. So what we did was I had a place for these farm guys so that we can have 360 watch over them. Proximity to the farm was clear. Irrigation systems were clear. But still, we made more money off of packaging, processing than all of that. I was one of the first young people to go into passion fruit in the country. It was pretty good as well. What will it take to transform this sector is one, looking at the value chain itself and exposing youth to it and demystifying agribusiness as a sort of quick fix, quick money-making venture is not the right way. But if you look at it more around, there's circular economy systems within this where you're looking at transforming into waste solutions sort of arrangements. You're looking at technology as an enabler of agribusiness. You're looking at aggregator systems where can I then be able to guarantee X level of product for this company by helping the small farmer be able, or the FBOs be able to collate a certain guaranteed tonnage for me. If we expose youth, so then the value chain of it would have more people in it and look at its sustainability. But if we just introduce it to youth as, how should I call it? Even back in school, when you're asked to farm, you don't want to farm. It's like a punishment for you to farm. But if we can expose them to the modernity of it, I think that we'll go far in exploring its full potential.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the first young person to say, quite frankly, that the perception is that agri and farming is a dirty business. It's not attractive. Right. But then when you talk about, and in fact, the point that you make about it being a quick fix, I think that's also very important. And I want to repeat that because just like growing any form of plant, the seed, it takes time to sprout, to eventually become. So it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. But then when you talk about this to say that we need to change the misconceptions, we need to expose young people to the value chain, we need to expose young people to the technologies and the modernities of the system. Who is we? Are you stakeholders like yourself? Are we talking about national governments? Are we talking about development institutions like, for instance, UNIDO and the FAU who are running the OYA program? Who is we?
That's a very good question. Let me take a pause to answer that. There are multi-dimensions to it. You would always want to look at it from the policy angle that there's a ministry responsible for agriculture. And this ministry, to the best of my knowledge in most countries, is decentralized to be able to work with local farmers, right? Now, there's a family system. So there's a value chain from that too, where you then have connected agencies, where you have aggregators, where you have FBOs, where you have companies that have supply contracts with these companies that within that value chain, among others. But, excuse me, it takes one person to sort of sit down and figure out what their strengths are. Is agribusiness something that you want to do? It comes from the family system as well. What has the family been exposed to? What knowledge material does the father have to see there's a potential? What are the role models within this industry for us to look up to and say, because this person has made it, I want to go into agribusiness? What are the case studies to examine as well? Except for the foreign-dominated entrance into that market itself. That's a topic that we don't talk about. There are many foreign dominant entrances. You don't see the indigenous people rise into that. There's always some Farmers' Day award going to a farmer, and you see his level of produce. But check the partnership levels. Are we translating this kind of success story to that young person in school to learn from him? No. You only hear of this at the latter stage. There's a young man in Ghana who, Casa de Roba, who processes potatoes from chips. From potatoes. He makes potato bread as well. Large scale. Only a few people know about this guy, right? There are others who, in terms of their export of vegetables to other markets, is huge. There's Fresh and Dry, which processes dried fruit into exportable commodities in coconut flakes and so on and so forth. But if we're not able to package this for family-oriented systems to understand the potential, that will be a challenge. If we are not able to also implore on UNIDO and all of these agencies to empower the local ministries to create these materials, to work on that mindset, we'll have challenges in this sector.
No, you mentioned a very good point, and I've had the pleasure of being at one or two conferences with the president of Ghana, and he has been quite a strong advocate for balancing the scale and improving ownership and improving even you talk about packages, the level of beneficiation and value add that takes place on the continent so that the benefits can can be derived to the people of the continent a lot more in a more equitable way. And I think that this is definitely an area in which the stakeholders who are at the front line of that negotiating table, from our ministers to the private sector, and even to development institutions like UNIDO, will definitely, and I think that there is a concerted effort to take such conversations a lot more seriously now as we try to build back better.
Yeah, let's get practical. Let's get practical. What we need to do is to begin to put what we call opportunity maps out there. Okay. Map out like Ghana and say, these crops grow better in this area. This is the soil profile of this area. This is this is that, this is that. These are the potential. This is what legislation looks like in this area, right? And then explore that value chain. That's number one. Then look at weather systems and be able to, and then look at which providers can provide information as to weather, as to soil quality, as to testing. Even for those who are processing, and you're looking at aflatoxins, there's a company that we work with in Ghana called Fifi Technologies, and they have developed a grain-made solution that allows you to test aflatoxins, humidity in grains to be able to determine. Now, if we start off this way and we do conversations like this and show such success stories and amplify that voice, you would end up getting more people doing responsible agriculture than those who are doing by the day and just, and there are issues here too. Are farmers getting the best of their produce? That's a big question to export to.
But the points that you were making earlier, to understand how it is that you became one of the youngest Ghanaians to advise on the budget in your youth.
Right.
And also, I just go back to your role at Hotel Wangara, where I believe you were the assistant manager there. So you have, in your come up, you've occupied and sat in quite big roles at quite a young age. And perhaps roles in which you'd have to delegate to people who are older than you, or share your ideas to people who are a lot older than you. How did you, as a young person and a young entrepreneur in the making, deal with perhaps the imposter syndrome that maybe I am too young to have this role as assistant manager, or perhaps I am too young to be advising the senior politicians on the budget? How did you deal with imposter syndrome?
Wow, that makes me look green. Wow, that's a good question. And age is never a limit to make an impact. I learned that along this journey. For me, because it was a quest to find myself, I was doing all of these things. Today, I humbly chair the JA Ghana board, Junior Achievement Ghana board, and then was appointed head of the board of directors of Africa, as well, a role that we are shaping for JA Africa and working with the team on that. I serve on the Kumasi High board. Kumasi High is one of our leading incubators in Ghana. They're also pioneers of the solar taxi, which is an EV electric vehicle company in Ghana, and it's doing really well. And I serve on it and a couple of other boards. So I remember walking into one of the meetings with Ministry of Defense. I think I was about 22 then. And when I walked into the meeting, I sat down and we're waiting. I was waiting for the meeting to start. And they were a bit uncomfortable. So I asked what was going on. And they said, we're waiting for Mr. John Armah. And I said, I am. They said, oh, that's so. And there were times where, because of age, we could not progress. Where knowledge should be the basis for acceptance, it's more around whether or not you measure up. And so those times were also pretty difficult for me as well. But the way that we transcended it, and I think that's why I tried to find myself by doing all of these things leading to that one person who then shaped my life. I sent an email to the World Bank in Ghana and said, I wanted to do this event. And I met a man called Kofi Kafuchikata, and he shaped my mind on focusing on what matters most. John, what is the purpose to what you're doing? I said, finding opportunities for young people. He said, what is the medium to find these opportunities for more young people? I said, okay, well, I've done training programs, bringing people who are doing this and that to help more young people know if they want to start a business, this is how they learn. But I'm trying to figure out what it goes. And he said, okay, it starts off with the policy. So let's look at that policy part, which is what that engagement was about. Then in that area, I realized, okay, now I needed to feed off of this pursuit and purpose that I was looking out for. So I had built connections, with people in industry, private sector, government, and there were youth looking for these opportunities. So that's what led me to actually now consider consulting and figure out, okay, so if I can help X person get this opportunity, but was it sustainable? Now, this is what I also did. First year, first semester, what I did was I actually was looking for internship opportunities for youth in my university for them to actually get exposed to the world of work, because everybody, they were just partying, people were partying and doing things. Now, all of this I've done because I was just trying to find I was just trying to find myself. I remember those times. I was just trying to find myself. And that led me to now figure out, okay, to start a business, you needed X. To do this. So even with what we were doing, there was no formal plan to it. So we now have to put a paper in place and do it this way. Now, Mr. Chikata too is a good mentor. He pushed me and said, do it this way. This is how you do a proposal. This is how this has grown. And then I had to build that capacity by learning. So learning by doing. So I did a lot of businesses to understand what my forte was, what my capacity was. And this has helped me today. So my advice to many young entrepreneurs on that journey is, look, finding yourself will come with barriers where people will underrate you, but those boundaries must be what lifts you up. When in those times, these are my biggest strengths. These are the times that got me thinking, what do I do next to break this stereotype? So when I'm coming to you, my understanding of coming to you now is to be better prepared to meet you. So that, and I realized something about young people. When we meet leaders, we're quick to want to say it all at a go. So you realize I speak fast. Now, this was all me starting up and the energy, the passion. But as I grew, I realized there are ways to win in strategy. There are ways to pitch this deal to this person. There are ways to do this to this person. So being prepared as a young person gives you a greater edge. Being knowledgeable gives you another greater edge. Having experience, being experienced also gives you some experience. Here comes from learning. Learning comes also from a bit of failing. So that also gives you some edge. And don't be shy to knock on doors for opportunities. Mm-hmm. That's also a big. So then I moved on and set up Ghana Center for International Employment and Innovation, which was then looking for jobs, started consultancy, grew that up, was acquired by a firm called Orios. Orios invested in our company, and then we sold that, and then we now started GE Venture Capital, and then it's been on and on. So you meet people on your journey that will facilitate the growth, but for each failure, take it as a learning curve, and don't be quick to badmouth people that you had relations with that failed. That's one thing that we need to learn as young people too. Giving what is due to others also gives you leverage in other partnerships. So I had partners in the past that one is now the counsel for the president of Ghana. I didn't even know that he was going to become counsel he's a lawyer for the president of Ghana. But he also helped me in understanding the legal regime. He was a lawyer then, I come down. So there's always learning in every opportunity that comes your way.
Yeah, no, it goes back to a saying that my mother always tells me, that you never know who you're talking to. Yeah. So treat everyone with respect, because you don't know, John, tomorrow I might be the president of South Africa. That's not my ambition. That's not my ambition. You speak fast and you have a lot to say. And it just speaks to the amount of things that you've done in your life at such a young age. So once again, I'm going to ask us to reverse. And we're reversing back to when you were in varsity and you did start up this job recruitment company with your partners.
Right.
Who were your partners and how successful was that business at that time?
Oh, so I had gone into Zenith University College, one of the best schools that I'm grateful to God for, because they gave me the room to think. There are certain schools that box you in, and so you can't. And I think that's what we also got to look at for parents and for youth. Find an environment where you can flourish. So at a bus stop, and this is John in school, haven't done radio, all of these things, and training university. And I had a friend. I said, "You like partying a lot. I should probably, try. I have a connection." around the school business that we used to work for. I can take you on as an intern. Would you want to try? He said, why not? You can make some money. And all our internships were paid because I don't know, for some reason, I understood the value of not being paid and how that can affect you too, but how unpaid internships also help. Some of the internships I did in the past, right, were unpaid, but I learned a lot from it. But then it came at great cost too, because there was nobody to fund that trip to go to that place of learning. So for me, also bridging that gap was also critical for these people. And then after that, so because it was paid, we were making a certain percentage of the monies that they were getting. So that was my first source of income. So that also led me into some of these things. Then after that, when we started learning about how to create a business plan proposals, started charging for those as well. So monetizing the purpose was now the next phase of it. Then after monetizing the purpose, and I remember those times we were going to meet us, I was charging a consultancy fee. Because at the time, nobody startups were a new thing, all of that. So charging. And then we had some knowledge about where you can get the money.
How much was your fee? How much was your fee?
How much was my what?
How much was your consultancy fee?
I forgot it. But guess what? In all of this, I still did not have money to finish my schooling at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then how did you get out of that web?
Yeah, that was internet. So this was all the things that were leading me into charging, to doing this and to doing that. But thankfully, I had a support system that did not make me lose track of school and its value to me. So what it is, what I then got a scholarship. I always wanted to do law. So if I was doing a course that was not related to me as a person, it was human resource management. And I needed that edge. So it was always law for me. So I got a scholarship to study with the University of London, sponsored by Mr. Jibrin Adams of EPP Books and Service, one of our big companies in Ghana. And then, even then, I still did not have money to sort of go and come because there were responsibilities. And that's one thing, too, as young people that we need to figure out, especially when you're coming from a certain place, is who do I place first? And what systems do I put in place to protect the investments I make at that point? Because otherwise you can lose them by doing good, and that good can haunt you because you are not established as a young person. So this some of the things that you got to look at. And then we scaled up into sustainability. So then I had to figure out comfort. So what things give me comfort? Which businesses give me comfort? Okay, now at this stage of comfort, with all its pain and things that came with it, how do I scale up into the point where it's sustainability? Which people can I hire? Because I was hiring people and not getting results. I was asking myself, was it me as a person that was not doing things right, or I was not hiring right? I had a farm manager who had masters and was one of the best students in one of the schools in Ghana to manage one of the farms. I traveled out of the country. I usually used to travel for just 3 weeks. Came back, I cleared the land for this guy, came back, and I usually would do random visits to the farm and come back. I came back and I was in the office. He didn't know what I'd seen, but he figured there was something wrong. So he walked into my office and said, "Boss," I said, "Hey, Francis," his name is Francis. He wants me to mention his name because even this day he says, "Thank you." So Francis says, "I think what I learned in school and on the field is different. It's very different." I said, "Why?" He said, "I couldn't do it." And if you can have young people being humble enough to accept at that level, you can empower them. So what I tell people now is hire for skill, but hire more for attitude as well. If you have the money to pay for the skill, you can pay for it, but balance it with your own capacity to manage people. That's something you learn. That's something you also. So one of the people that has helped me a lot in this journey is Mr. Peku Awatre. My goodness, former MD of Talo. Everything I know about boards, serving on boards, and actual versus budget, governance manuals, all of these things, board reporting, evaluation, I learned from him when I was early. And for some reason, I don't know, the kind of trust he imposed in me, and he could send me a certain task and expect that I knew about it. But I had to also had the responsibility to make sure that I matched up to it by engaging the relevant people who could give that knowledge as well. So let me leave it here and say that, look, it's a combination of things that make you a young entrepreneur. At that level, you start off by wondering. I was at a bus stop. What do I do? Then going to the World Bank office, working with Mr. Kavichikata, getting refined, polished, working on radio. I did a bit of political consulting as well. Yeah, so
What didn't you do? Let's start there. What didn't you do?
the member of parliament, I'll be happy to mention his name. So we've held about 3 MPs minimum win elections in Ghana, and in one particular area there was an incumbent that we had to remove.
So you're a fixer.
No, it's political strategy. No, fixer is too. No. We build systems. We build like the strategy. We do the database and audits. We look at water patterns. We look at development projects. We look at the development plan of the area. Use that to develop a manifesto. We look at the candidates, packaging, branding, the candidates themselves, messaging. We look at the theme. We look at the look and feel, the political environment. We look at opposition research. All of these things we used to do as well. So different companies like that. So that's what we did for that as well. And I learned a lot too from that engagement prior. Something happened in 2016 where I was working for these two major political parties in Ghana. One, I helped get the policy in place. One, I was helping to put something in place. That also helped me learn about press releases, political strategy. So that's been it for a while. Yeah.
Lots of learnings.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to know. Wait. Okay, my turn.
Okay,
I want to know about your learnings when you were in school running this business that required so much energy from you, from getting the consultancy fees to managing the fees of placing young people in employment. And at the end of the day, after all of that energy, still not having a business that made money. Yeah. So I want to learn about the learnings there. If you're an entrepreneur right now and you business currently that is on the go, you're spending time and you're spending your energy and you're giving it your all, but it's not making money. What process did you take to go back to the drawing board? And what has that taught you about how to make businesses profitable today?
That's a very good question. We made some money. I bought my first car at age 18, almost 18.
So that's why you couldn't pay for university. You bought a car.
That was when I left university.
Okay.
So that was when I left university. And, remember, I couldn't stay in university because really the money was not enough for me. There was no money at all. And that's what led me to start that business. So I left right after that business. That was my first school. That was when I was in administration. So I left to focus right now on improving myself and getting some money to be able to return, which is why I went back to law and now finished. So your question was whether or not you were making money and how did you go from that part of it. It was a bad decision I made. And I got acquainted with a lady. And if you watch my interviews in Ghana on PM Express at the time, not a lot of youth had been on Youth Express or Good Evening Ghana. There's a major shows in Ghana. And I mentioned this lady on TV. And I was going to marry this lady. And I was splitting my revenue with this lady. And my God. I don't know how I got into that place. And at the neglect of my family, even. So it was a really hard time. And these are things that I think every young entrepreneur must watch. Who you bring around you as friends during these periods. That's number one. Number two is at that time, had I figured myself thoroughly? Not yet. Did I know about investments that I could make? Not yet. That was one big mistake I made. Number two was I did not understand the relationship between profit and revenue. and what that does for business growth as well. I didn't understand that at the time when I was in that hustle period. And then those were the challenges for me around managing finances, right?
Yeah.
So because when I started the business, it was all uphill from there. The period before that was then the hustle period where you're doing this, doing that, unpaid, paid. And then it was dating that lady was a question of value, because I thought that by staying true to one lady, I would not rather be spending money on ladies and, like I was focused, this is the woman I want to marry, and it was childish, but that's what happened. But improving profits came about from, okay, what were my operational costs? What were the capital expenditure we need to make as a firm? Okay, what should our bottom line look like? Now, these are overheads as a firm, okay? So there were increasing responsibilities now. Okay, now, what's the client to what's the client to staff ratio like for me to complete time? How do we get repeat business to ensure that this money that we're making comes in? What is the minimum level below which we won't go for charging for clients? What should be a reasonable markup for this kind of business? Okay, then what system do we need to put in place to grow? Okay, now what does top of mind look like? So here I mean priority setting, because you remember we were doing all of these things, so you can be everywhere at that period as a young entrepreneur. So now it was focus. What is focus for us? And that's what led me to know my strengths are, my values are priority for me. My focus is on building systems and help organizations grow. Okay, what is the lesson I need to do here for that? Okay, what key partners do we need to do for that? Now, how do we leverage on projects to balance overheads to still be able to make impact and make profit? And that's what defines our business model as we speak now. So as we speak now, we're one of the foremost implementers of projects in Ghana where there's value for money because we're actually doing what we say we'll do in the areas that we'll do, and the impacts are tangible. You can see a business who now has internal controls that's working. Let me give you an example. We picked a business called Enterprise Village. We had 3 months to set up this firm as a co-working space in Ghana. The founder is Mutia, beautiful lady, fantastic, smart, had met people who had disappointed her, was thinking, I want this thing to run ASAP. What do? We put together a 3-month strategy, So even before the business plan was ready, we're implementing. We had mapped it all out. And today, Enterprise Village is one of the focused co-working spaces in Ghana. So you can look them up as well. We did same for other companies. This is what led to us now figuring out, okay, if we can maintain this level of consistency and giving value to our clients and putting them first, right? It ends up always coming back in revenue to us and in profits to us.
All right. So, John, you've asked a lot of questions in your explanations about, how you think of business and how you think of strategy and the relationship between profit and revenue and the like. And it ties back to what you said in the beginning part of this conversation about there not being a template for entrepreneurship in Africa, essentially. And so against that statement about the lack of the template for entrepreneurship and all the questions that you actually ask yourself in venturing out to certain businesses, what would you summarize the potential template of entrepreneurship based on your experience to be a brief summary?
Number one is understanding the sectors, understanding yourself as an entrepreneur. Being intentional about your personal development plan. Understanding what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are for you as a young person. Finding networks that can shape your thought process on what do you think about this, what do you think about this, a set of people. Observe by learning, which is, just immerse yourself in environments where are of interest to you. Just understand whether they would be things that you want to do. Use that to establish what we call the value and purpose. Value and purpose here is then, okay, I understand what my capacities are. I am good at design. I am good at strategy. I'm good at thinking. I'm good at organizing things. I'm good at this. Okay, what does this translate into? Now, you, at this point, have not thought of a business at all. So don't be quick to go and register a business or think you have that spark plug that's going to make you money. No, a lot of things can happen on this journey. Now, think of matching the value to a consumer need, as you hear people say, but anticipate the need is what I'll say. So we live in a market where we're always thinking, oh, this person has this core problem. The question is, how many people have the same problem, right? But the question also is, can I anticipate a new market that can happen? Which is why you are seeing a lot of growth in the startup ecosystem within our country now. What systems can be brought in because of lifestyle changes, behavioral trends, among others. Now, when you think of value to that consumer ratio, think of what is that profile of the consumer? How big are they? Can they pay for it? What are they doing with other products? What are the existing products? Think of the competitive advantage or edge. Think of the competitors as well. Look at a bigger player within the system to look at what does growth mean to you and what could you look like in the next 3-4 years, and benchmark that. Document the processes and systems from these people that you're seeing. Now, there are certain ideas that require a lot of funding at the beginning stage. There are those that can also be offset in a number of scenarios. There are those that may require off-takers as a substitute for proof. So this can be delivery contracts and so on and so forth. That can be an easier way to go. There are those that may require a blend of grants against a capital raise in terms of equity or debt to balance. So the grant allows you to then scale. Then you got to iterate and go into product development enough to warrant a prototype ready for the market for a capital raise. Now, play around all of these scenarios in your capital raise scenario even before you go to market. But examine this from another context. This product, this market, what will it take to produce X, which is 1, and how do I multiply that? This will lead you to developing your budget, developing your cash flow, and so on and so forth, because you need to have some historical performance in Africa to be able to make progress. Whether you are a startup, pre-seed, seed, early stage, whether you're a medium-sized business in the classification we call micro, small, medium enterprises. All of these things will require certain levels. So, for example, a micro business will require what we call statement of affairs. So, document as much of these costs that you're putting in the business. And the word was, it can affect you even when you're negotiating in terms of partners coming into the business.
Now, but then, John, what if you are in an industry? We're living in a time now where this pandemic has accelerated the digitization of the world systems, and you're in an industry whereby you come up with an idea and you've got no track record because you've just come out with this idea as a result of it being one of these new industries that will potentially be the new employers of the future, as it were. So you don't have a track record. What then?
Yeah. That's what, so let me go back again to what I was saying earlier. Competitive advantage, and competitive edge, the unique selling proposition, right? Data on the structure of the idea itself, right? Okay, now matching this product to consumers and determining what is the market size, what is the value of that market, right? Ensuring that you know what it is that you want an investor to come into. So we call something cap tables. I don't want to make it so complex so that it gets tricky for anybody because there are different people who may be listening to this. There's the medium size. So now you have cap tables that you need to develop. You have valuation sheets that you need to look at. You have market sizing that you need to do. You have a pitch document that you can develop, right? You have the skeletal frameworks of the prototype. Other areas, other sectors will require feasibility studies. Other areas will require, going through tenders. So you need to figure out in your line what works for you, right? In this era where you're looking at technology kind of businesses, there are grants, there are business pitch competitions. That's what I'm saying. It depends on the value chain also. There's that guy who may pitch X product to a local accounting firm in Ghana and say that you don't focus on micro businesses. So this is an opportunity to use my product for the micro business. That becomes a lateral investment for that company, right? So in this case, you'll not be going around for pitch competitions. You'll be looking for which person will sign that agreement and value based on the back end, the analytics of the product. So all of these things factor into these things. So data must drive that growth. And then you have governance. Who are my advisors on this thing? Do I set up an advisory board or a regular board as prescribed by your company's code or your company's act in the locality that you are in? Performance management. How do I track success? How do I track? These are things I want to know what makes you different, really. If it's a technology company, Why shouldn't I go with X company and go with you? That's the question that you got to understand. What is your investment thesis? What is the return on investment for me if I were to back you? Now, if you're not going to do that,
John, you are far away from entrepreneurship, because I mean, all these questions that you're asking, and I actually appreciate it. I appreciate it because you're shedding a very important light on it to say that it's not easy. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of research and preparation. But I think you'd say that it's worth it in the end when it eventually works out. Which brings me to my closing question for you, to say, just looking at yourself right now, and if you can look back at your younger self, when you started out in this journey of entrepreneurship, what in hindsight would you tell your younger self about the journey that lies ahead and the work that's required?
The reason why we have a lot of young entrepreneurs today falling out of the entrepreneurial journey is because we are not telling them the truth. And if I got this advice that I'm giving on this platform years ago, I think our level of growth would have been 3 times more than we are today. And that's why it's important. You have to build capacity to understand these things. Excel sheets, actual versus budget, financial management using, either Tally, either using QuickBooks. How do I interpret the data itself to manage my business? How do I manage people, right? All of these things. If I got that experience, exposure to the things I know today, we are where we are today because of these learnings, right? But we need to pay it forward to those who are coming to know. That don't just step in. There are people who are quitting their jobs to start entrepreneurs, to be entrepreneurs, and they fail. Why go through that hassle? So let's invest in these systems that we are mentioning: governance, capacity building, performance management, focus, creating a value system, creating systems, examining your business model, right? And being clear on the financial model, especially the unit economics of it, the customer profiling, the overheads, separating your OPEX, CAPEX, looking at different types of market penetration strategy, what we call go-to-market strategy, where you're looking at, do I enter through an off-taker? Do I enter through a pitch competition? Do I enter through a grant process? Do I go through tenders? Okay, what type of funding will work for me? Is it a supplier's credit agreement? Is it a credit line? If it's a credit line, what will work? Do I pursue a private equity route? Once you understand the knowledge of these, your route to success is better than the person who just jumps into it as passion-driven. Passion can be converted and monetized. So have that focus in mind and know how to balance these.
And I think I'd just add to that list information sharing and also education and reach. And I think that this is why platforms such as this one are so important, to ensure that the information from entrepreneurs like yourself are shared so that the up and comings know exactly what they are getting into before they do embark on the journey. But John, we are leaving it there, sir. Something tells me that your future is going to be very busy still, so I'm sure we'll meet again virtually or physically. But thanks so much for your time. That's John Armah, the serial entrepreneur and business consultant and strategist, and that is how we are summing up chapter 1 of the Entrepreneurial Mindset podcast. We have given you a whole array of ideas so far of how you can transcend your initial thinking about a business venture into an actual business venture. And we certainly hope that you are more informed and that we'll be seeing a lot more businesses sprout up as a result. But from myself, Fifi Peters, it's been awesome being with you. And until we meet again, it's goodbye.
This has been the OYA Entrepreneurial Mindset Podcast. Tune in to stay up to date on each new episode for more inspiring stories. Share your entrepreneurial journey with us using the hashtag #WeNeedOYA. A link to our website and social media is available in the description of the episode.